Hello and welcome to Peppermint Philosophy. I'm your host Adam Burgess, and today I want to talk about something that's been in the news recently, and I think it's kind of important because we're all kind of prone to falling into these traps, and you hear a lot about it, and it can cause a lot of problems, and it's going to keep causing problems as we move into the future and I guess continue finding new people to rally towards. And the problem that I'm talking about is assigning messianic properties to individuals and essentially, I guess, giving up our own thought in favor of their opinions. So what is all of that? It all sounds like bullshit, and some of it kind of is, but essentially what I'm talking about is these recent revelations with Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party with regards to anti-Semitism, the recent EHRC report talking about anti-Semitism within the party, how it's a problem, how there was systemic harassment which wasn't really dealt with properly. I mean, these things are all in the report and you can have your opinion on it, but I think one of the worrying things to me is how quickly and immediately people decided that they'd rally towards, I suppose, the man that they supported for many years, and essentially turned on the Labour Party, talking about how they've essentially just become a part of the corrupt mainstream media and whatever other shit is being said. And I think it's cause to be concerned because I guess the sad thing to me is that you have so many people who have effectively invested so much of their own personal identity in politics, and more specifically in these individuals, these politicians who promise you the world, and it turns out that actually they are probably a bit more crooked and corrupt than you originally believed. And I understand it. I mean, people like Jeremy Corbyn, what they say is very promising. It sounds good. It's good policy. It sounds like it's going to be good for everyone. And I agree, there are things about Jeremy Corbyn's politics which I like. He came across as a very likable person. But I was always skeptical because at the end of the day, he's a politician, and politicians in this kind of a democracy that we live in comes back to Plato's criticism of democracy, in that, what a society might need is a doctor to tell them that they need to take their medicine instead of eating sweets which will rot their teeth. And in that situation, when you can vote on the advice which will make you better, you often choose the sweet shop salesman because they will tell you something that you like. And that's the same for both parties or political opinions. They will all promise you a load of bullshit. And what worries me is that we have people rallying to these labels, to these ideologies, almost in place of religion. You've got people who invest so much of their identity into their political opinion, whatever it might be. They say, I'm right-wing, I'm left-wing, I'm a Marxist, I'm a capitalist, all of these labels which cover this broad brush of political and ideological opinions, or opinions on individual issues, which for some reason right and left have suddenly become umbrella terms of, And I think I've said it before, where it's, why if you believe in a free market economy, do you have to believe in not allowing abortion, or vice versa, whatever that might be? And it just doesn't make sense. Why can't you have someone who is pro-choice as well as being free market, or whatever it might be? And the thing that concerns me is that we are digging ourselves deeper and deeper into these holes, getting more and more closed off in our bubbles as people start denying allegations and problems which the people who we followed, were a part of. And at the end of the day, these politicians are all human beings. Of course they're going to make mistakes. Of course they're going to do wrong. And ultimately something quite damning came out. And I think the broader issue is that we do have this seeming tendency to essentially make messiahs of individuals. And in recent times it's become predominantly politicians. You know, we no longer say we are these broad political opinions that, or sometimes we don't, you know, we're no longer conservatives or liberals. We are Corbynites or, I don't know, Thatcherites or whatever it might be. And we're leaning into these terms where individuals are political opinions. You know, how is being a Corbynite, you know, any different from believing in Trumpism as your political opinion? You know, I understand policy-wise they're very different, but the whole philosophy behind it is the same. You are essentially adopting the ideas of an individual person as your ideas instead of having your own individual ideas and then voting in favour of the person who best represents them. I'm concerned about the state of politics, the state of the world, when people continue to just give up their own individual thoughts and opinions so that they can be a part of this club or that club. And it's happening the world over. You're seeing these political opinions changing from being these broad terms to being named after people. You know, it's you're a Corbynite, you're a Bernie bro, you're a Trumpite, you're a Thatcherite, you're a Reaganite, or, you know, all of these political opinions are forming around people. And surely we should have learned, you'd expect that we'd have learned by now that you can't fucking trust a politician. We had it with Tony Blair. Everyone was head over heels over Tony Blair. You know, everything's going to change now. This young, new politician coming with new ideas, new energy. He's going to change it. And it turns out he was a fucking war criminal just waiting to happen. Same thing happened with Barack Obama. Change Obama. Everything's going to be different now. We're going to end the wars. We're going to end the deaths of civilians abroad. And he ended up bombing more people, you know. Why do we believe that somehow it's going to be different when someone who is supposedly principled comes along and promises the world again, you know? And I'm not saying, you know, necessarily that Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders, for example, are bad people. I'm just saying that you shouldn't be viewing these people who are, at the end of the day, career politicians as people who are going to save the world, because at the end of the day, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. These people are looking for your vote. They are searching for your support so that they can gain power. Maybe their policies will help you and others. Some of them, others might not. But that's what democracy is. It's not about ushering in a new age that's going to be perfect for everyone, because that's an impossibility. Democracy is a whole game of essentially agreeing on some things and disagreeing on other things and compromising in favor of things that are more important to you. You know, you'll compromise your opinion on one issue because this other issue is of greater importance, and this party is offering this thing that's better. You know, why have we gotten to this age where we almost block out that kind of thing and just say, nope, I am 100% this person all the way. I am die hard for this person. Surely that is concerning. If you essentially have, and I know you'll see these terms thrown around a lot, these cults or whatever it might be. Of course you see it a lot, but it's kind of true. You know, we end up with these unwavering beliefs in these individuals, even though at the end of the day, all they're doing is seeking power. Surely we can't trust people that much when that's their end goal. This has kind of gotten a bit random, but I'll try and ground it. I have a few articles that I pinged up specifically on the Corbyn situation. So I've been off social media, but I've been hearing of the backlash which has happened, obviously, when you have people who, for the past 5 years or longer, they've effectively jumped in whole hog in support of this person. You see it all the time. The same thing happens on the Conservative side. 100% agree, but that's not what's in the news at the moment. I will always criticise whoever's at fault, no matter what their political opinion is. But this is what's going on at the moment, right? So we have these bubbles which are forming, and you could see it, over the last few years, these people who would become very actively positive about Corbyn and about Corbynism. They would call themselves Corbynites or Corbynistas or whatever it might be, and they formed these groups on Facebook. They would continually share articles, and you'd see it all the time in these comment sections where they would constantly be criticised mainstream media for criticisms of Corbyn. But the funniest bit is that the exact same arguments were being levelled at mainstream media by the right-wing ideologues on the other side, saying that it was anti-right-wing, anti-Brexit, anti-whatever it might be. And this is you've got two sides on opposite sides of the spectrum making the exact same arguments. Surely we can see that there's something wrong there. In some of these articles with interviews with people in his Islington constituency, they talk about how he's a very extremely nice person. He goes out and does all this stuff in the community. You wouldn't see Boris Johnson doing that. However, there have been concerns that this guy had. He was saying, I have concerns with his stance on the IRA, and then also this anti-Semitism stuff doesn't seem to be going away. Okay. But he's a very nice person. He doesn't believe that he's an actual anti-Semite. Now, a Jewish member of the community who doesn't want her real name to be revealed in this article is in this interview, and she says, I follow politics pretty close. This is a Guardian article, by the way. I follow politics pretty closely and was familiar with his shtick. I was never a fan, but as long as he was an unimportant backbencher, I didn't waste energy on him and voted on national lines, i.e. for the Labour Party. About 10 years ago, I noticed that his faction was becoming more toxic, and by the time he was leading the leadership race in 2015, I was warning my friends to take care. The 5 years since he won have been painful. I wanted an effective opposition to the government who would win power, and knew that he wouldn't provide that. When I received rants about the mainstream media brainwashing us against him, I said, but I was there. I heard him say all of those things in real time, before the national media cared. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. I mean, at the end of the day, we can blame brainwashing of media, and I am by no means a fan of the media at all. I think I've said it before, how bullshit so much of it is these days, how it's all kind of tailored towards this social media machine, and how it's, often just total bullshit. But, these reports, there's only so much that you can then just be like, oh yeah, mainstream media, it's all just stacked up against me, blah, 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 When you're seeing one side of the story, say you're in this bubble, and all you're seeing is the side where it's all lies, it's all fake news, blah, blah, blah. Of course, you're only going to see that side and think that the media is just stacked against your leader, let's call it. But there is another side of this, I suppose you could call it another bubble or another group, some of them also within your same party, who are seeing the other side of it. They're seeing this side where members of the group are hearing potentially, these slurs or these kinds of discussions which they find uncomfortable. They're making complaints and they're not being taken seriously or being considered as fake news. This has been reported for years. I mean, none of this stuff has been new. It's been there all along. There's a reason why it keeps coming up over and over and over again. And the thing that surely we can all appreciate is that the exact same kinds of things are happening with Donald Trump, right? In America. Donald Trump has all of these accusations leveled at him, and he says, fake news, the media's out to get me, don't believe it. All of this same shit Donald Trump is doing as well. And now, either it's true for both of them or it's false for both of them. Can't just pick and choose, really. I mean, when all of these accusations are being leveled, there are two sides to the story. There always are. And maybe people are right in that it is kind of exaggerated. I believe in some ways, yes, it probably is exaggerated on both sides. But there's also still probably some truth to it. And look, I'm not trying to be, anti-Corbyn or anti, whatever it might be. Well, no, actually, I'll correct myself. I am being anti putting all of your eggs in one basket. I'm against the notion that you should follow an individual as a saviour figure, because that's the danger. We now have people who are in total denial, whether it's about Donald Trump or Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson or whoever the fuck's leading the Lib Dems at the moment, You have people who are in total denial of the faults of their leaders because they have invested so much of their identity into these people. And I think that at the core of this is a question of identity. Why on earth are so many of us investing who we are in politics, in ideology? It's all bullshit at the end of the day. The same thing happens in philosophy. So many people will go around and say, yes, I'm a Marxist, or yes, I'm a, fucking Thatcherite, I guess. I'm trying to think of an alternative, But you have all these people who will call themselves by the names of these people, and they will say, yes, I follow this idea, I am one of these, or whatever it might be. And it's like, I understand that. You can share ideas of them. You can believe in some of the aspects of Marxism or Stoicism or whatever it might be, but I don't think that people should call themselves these things, because it implies that you have to follow a set of rules or a set of ideas in order to be that kind of thing, and it's assuming that won't be subject to change. There might be revelations that will prove that maybe that wasn't the right idea or the right ideology or the right philosophy. I'm a big fan of Albert Camus, for example. I really like the things that he says. It resonates with me. His philosophy of absurdism, all of these things, they resonate with me really well. Would I say that I'm a Camusite? No, because although a lot of it resonates with me and I think that there's a lot of it that's right, to me as an individual, those were his philosophies, his observations, his ideas. I am reading them secondhand from my own perspective. I'm having to digest it and in turn kind of see it through the lens of Adam, I have to digest it, I have to interpret it, and I have to figure it out for myself. And that's where I think the difference lies, is that there's no point in labeling yourself as one of these things, because ultimately you're interpreting what's being said and incorporating it into your own personal philosophy and your own personal view through your own personal vision. And maybe that's too simplistic a way of trying to... I understand that viewing it that way suddenly changes. It's like, well, how do you get anything done? How do you get momentum? How do you change the world around you? Well, maybe we need to try it differently. Maybe more of us need to start thinking for ourselves and not joining teams and just standing on our own and interpreting things as they happen, as they change, and trying to leave ourselves open to be challenged and to see the other side more, instead of closing ourselves off in these little bubbles where we're essentially a cult following a messiah who can do no wrong, because if suddenly that is turned up on its head, suddenly our entire identity is in turmoil, because we've invested so much of it into an individual human being who by nature is faulted. Suddenly our whole world turns upside down. So it's no wonder that so many people are in denial about potential accusations or potential wrongdoing by their messianic figure. And this is how you end up with these teams and these brainwash. Well, I don't want to call it brainwash. That's quite mean. But these people who deny that there could be the potential for any wrong being done. And look, I totally get it. It's hard, but the parallels to be drawn with people that we find abhorrent are clear, The same kinds of reactions happening for Corbyn are the exact same reactions that are happening for Donald Trump, the same kind of things that are happening for Joe Biden now. Somehow Joe Biden's becoming this paragon in the eyes of some people, even though he's a total piece of shit. The same goes for Trump as well. Both of them are pieces of shit. And for some reason, we're trying to change it from being an argument. And I haven't been following it, arguably, because the US election doesn't fucking matter to me, because I can't do anything about it. But why are we denying the fact that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both old pieces of shit who have done horrible things? There have been allegations of rape against both of them. We somehow, for some reason, forget all of that and try and paint a paragon out of, essentially what is probably a senile old creep. And hey, this is harsh. As you can probably tell, I'm actually a bit annoyed about this whole situation. I guess my plea to everyone, whoever's listening, all 5 or 3 people who are listening, is pause and think about your own views, how you view them through a lens, and how many of your views you've kind of changed so that you can be more in line with whoever the individual or political grouping or ideology, whatever it might be. How many of your own personal views have you kind of changed to fit more with that, instead of, digesting, debating, and reconciling? Because in my point of view, so many of them have been that. Part of disconnecting from politics in general, part of disconnecting from social media bubbles in general, has been a process of trying to digest what I used to believe, what I believe now from listening to other people, reading other things, and viewing, learning a bit more about history and historical context and identity, and how that has morphed and changed and adapted over time. And I think everyone needs to go through that kind of process, and it's a continual process. It's never an end point. I am by no means someone that you should be like, yeah, Adam's got the right idea, let's follow Adamism. Fuck that. Just find your own thing. Have integrity in your beliefs, I suppose, and try not to join these ideological religions which are just popping up, whatever it is, Reaganism, Thatcherism, Marxism, Corbynism, capitalism. It's all bullshit. You have views, the world goes round, and your views change and adapt over time. That's fucking natural. I suppose, to be honest, this episode was literally just to get shit off my chest. I've been ruining for a while, so apologies. We'll try and get back to the usual schedule in the coming weeks. I'm trying to line up some more guests to have some interesting conversations, but I need to get that off my chest. So enjoy. I hope you guys are having a good couple of weeks of lockdown coming up for England. Wales, we're already in it. Everyone stay safe. Enjoy yourselves as best you can. Be decent. Don't be a dick. Just look out for your people. Decency. In the words of Albert Camus, I'll finish off with Albert Camus, even though I'm not a Camusite. Bear with me. We'll just do it just because we're all going into lockdown, so we might as well just hear his little words from the plague. I think I've even fucking said it in a previous podcast, but I don't give a shit. Anyway, let's end this train wreck with a piece of wisdom. There's no question of heroism in all this. It's a matter of common decency. That's an idea which may make some people smile, but the only means of fighting a plague is common decency. So there we go, folks. Enjoy yourselves. I hope you had a good weekend. Catch you in the next one. Bye.